All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the AI-powered seller. Today, my friends, we have got a great one. I'm going to be joined by Sean Mooney, who's founder and CEO of Blue Wave. Also, his brother's oldest son plays basketball with my son, so I got a lot of connections with Sean. Sean and his firm, they partner with hundreds of PE firms in their portfolio companies, helping them to find the right partners. And so why I think Sean is so unique for this conversation is this guy gets asked from the leading firms and then their portcos, what in the hell should we do with AI? And so today's conversation, we're going to talk big picture, philosophical. We're going to talk about the goal. We're going to talk logistics. We're going to talk about the template generation, which is a generation of sellers that have grown up being told to implement templates versus sales process. We're going to talk about the making AI a tactic versus a technology, and get into a whole bunch of other additional topics. Right? There's right now a massive hype cycle around AI, a massive what the heck should I do? And Sean and I are going to get into it. So Sean, big appreciation for you and the work that you do. Welcome to the show. Excited to jump into it. All right, Sean. So why don't you tell people just a little bit about your background in Blue Wave? Obviously, we've known Blue Wave for many, many years here. And, really kind of the view that it gives you across, so many different industries.
Yeah, great, Jake. And it's great to be here with you today. I'm excited to be on the show. What we are and what Blue Wave is we're technically referred to as a market network. And so what we do is principally we work with many hundreds of the top private equity firms in the world, thousands of their portfolio companies.
This guy's connected. I'm just going to tell you guys. Right? If you want to get connected, this dude is connected.
We know a lot of people, but that's our job, is to bring really good together with really good. And so what we're doing is connecting the world's best business builders with the world's best advisors, service providers, interim executives in this really intelligent, highly calibrated way. Most of our customers are private equity firms and their portcos, but everyday companies use us as well. And what that gives us a vantage into is what the best business builders in the world are doing, where they're doing it, why they're doing it, how it changes in real time. And so it's this fascinating kind of lattice of business trends and how people reframe risk into opportunity and take on challenges. Just a 2-second backstory on me was this was the toy I wish I had. And so most of my career, I was in private equity. And I was like, I need all these people. And I'd call my buddies and like, hey, do you know somebody who does this? And they're like, no. So I'd start Googling and calling friends like, hey, do you know, what should I do? And then we would just square peg round hole. And I said, wouldn't it be great if we could create Amazon meets Gartner Magic Quadrant for business builders? Yeah,
I love that. Yeah, and I think, again, you do a great job of, highlighting the right, your team in particular, of kind of matching up the right partner for the right engagement. And so, look, you get a chance, we're going to talk a little AI, a little private equity and, landscape today. But, let's talk maybe a little bit about like what you're seeing around AI adoption. And obviously I'll share a little bit, we run in the same circles in terms of, private equity and, late stage venture, et cetera. What are you hearing from your private equity partners around AI in particular? And maybe talk a little bit about, some of the failures too. Like, what are you seeing that people are struggling with the most?
Yeah, and maybe we're seeing a lot, and I'll give you a little bit of history, right? And so, and Jake, we've talked about this, and in my mind, history doesn't necessarily repeat itself, but it certainly rhymes.
Sure.
And so,
I like that.
A lot of what's going on right now, it feels to me, to date myself, this feels like 1995, 1996, as we talked about, where Netscape came out and finally the internet was available to mere mortals.
Right.
And then everyone was just talking about internet. And it was all this craze, and internet was a strategy. And then everyone eventually chilled out and realized it was a tactic. And so so the internet used to be nuts, and then everyone overbuilt it, and then it all blew up. And then in 2001, beautiful companies came out of that are all the market leaders today. And so for me, where this story begins is it's 2022, this thing called ChatGPT comes out. There were some early adopters. This is really cool. 23, everyone's like, AI is going to take over the world. And everyone's like, AI. But it was still kind of like a gimmick in the beginning.
Right? It's this is cool. Like, it did my grocery list for me.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, tell me about my, something or other. And it was cool. But then it would make a lot of stuff up. And then what's happened even, I think, faster now than 1995, it's people have realized it's not a strategy unto itself, it's a tactic. And so people are using it very specifically to attack certain work streams that require synthesis, automation, increasingly decision and action. And so if you go back to what we saw in the early days, think about it last year, beginning of 2024, PE firms calling us off the hook and they're like, we need neural networks. And we'd say, well, okay, that's great. But let's do some precursor stuff. Is your data organized? Are you visualizing it? Do you have your KPIs? Do you have this stuff that's going to really enable the cool stuff? Because unless your data is organized, all this stuff you're never going to get to the frontier cool stuff. And so what was really cool was last year we saw waves and waves and waves of people putting in things like Snowflake, where they previously didn't have that, organizing their data, structuring it, putting into KPIs, cleaning it, putting in structures to keep it clean, which is the hard part, the messy part, and then visualizing it. So the highest ROI for most people is still to visualize your data, understand what your KPIs are, and gamify your business. And then, and concurrent with that, there's a whole bunch of other stuff. But now it was interesting, after that precursor activity, now we're getting waves and waves and waves of PE firms actually doing stuff for their portcos, activating the cool stuff. But they were really thoughtful about, let's get the foundation set so that we can build a house on it.
I like that. I think that's a really good call out. Yeah, and we're seeing... it's so funny. Sean and I were talking about this before. I literally use the exact same analogy, except for I say 1996 around the internet. And the way that I describe it to people, and I've talked about it on the podcast many times, is, companies need to stop asking themselves, what's our AI strategy? It's like people are founding, Sean, these AI officer, chief AI officer. And I'm like, look, for product, that makes a ton of sense, right? For product and how to integrate it. But, your IT department doesn't know what your AI strategy should be for your SDR or for your sales rep or for your marketing team. And, a lot of the conversations I'm having are really with business leaders and CEOs being like, guys, your IT team does not know, because it's about your roles. I was like, AI is a role and use case specific deployment. Yeah. The same way as internet was, right? You don't have an internet. I don't know, Sean, in 95, 96, was there a chief internet officer? I bet there was.
It was maybe 1995, probably not, but 1998, if you remember, every MBA was get an MBA in internet. And it was we're going to be an internet company. And it was just this was a strategy unto itself. And then eventually people realized, no, it's a tactic in service of your strategy. This is about moving information seamlessly from place to place and up and down and doing it much more efficiently. And so as I think about this, and this is kind of a provocative take that some people get upset, this is just a long progression between the fusion of human and machine. And so industrial revolution goes on, you start getting machine and humans working much more. You get all the way down to the 70s and 80s, computers start coming out. 80s, you bring the computer to yourself, but you can't get any data there. It's just a computer. And then you go into the 90s, you get the internet. Now you can bring the data to your machine. And then you get into 2000s, you get these little iPhones. Now you bring the data and the compute power that was stronger than the best Cray supercomputer in the 90s in your hand. And then in the 2010s, you get the cloud, where it's all available everywhere at mass. And now where we're entering is with AI, it's about synthesis. It's about then doing something with it. So it's not just about moving it to places you are more efficiently and greater data. Now you can take the sum total of human knowledge, synthesize it in a second, and help you make a decision and action. Increasingly, it's going to do that action for you.
That's right. Yeah, and the other big kind of evolution I talk about too, Sean, is this is what I try to talk to people is this isn't a technology. This is a transformation how we solve problems as humans. Yeah. And if you think about it, it was we used to have to, and Sean, you'll recognize the Dewey Decimal System. It's guys, you used to get answers. You either had encyclopedias at your house, or you went to a library and you had to comb through books and use it in microfiche. Right. And then we got the internet and Google, and then Google summarized kind of some answer ideas. Yeah. And that was a huge leap in time savings, in the quality of answer, et cetera. This is the same leap, right? Yeah. 20 years later now, we're at that next bridge where now you give the machine everything instead of 5 words of broken English. You tell it everything and it gives you an answer. And then I think, when you talk about the fusing of the human, I think this is where a lot of people are struggling. I think that there's a lot of people that are like, is this going to replace me? And we'll get into that part of it later, but it's AI is meant to get us, like, I can get to V1 and it's a really good V1 so fast. And then I turn my brain on and I turn it into V5 in the same amount of time it would have taken me to get up to a rough draft. Right. And that's the same thing as like, when you had to go read a bunch of books and half of them, you didn't even need the insights in them. You probably saved 10, 20, 30, 40x more time when Google came out. Well, guess what, guys? That's where we're at now. We're at our next 40x in terms of time savings. And the beautiful part about this technology too, Sean, is this is the first technology where, that we've seen over the last, 15, 20 years, where not only can I do more of something, the quality is also going up.
That's exactly.
And that's unlike when I talk to a lot of revenue operations leaders, go-to-market leaders, I think that one thing is where their brain can't comprehend it. It's like they're trying to automate everything. I want to get, I got into quasi argument with a PE partner. I won't say what PE, one of their operating partners. You'll appreciate this, Sean. I was on a call with him on Monday, and he's like, "Yeah, but look, if it doesn't integrate, the salespeople aren't going to do it." And I'm like, "Your salespeople are already using ChatGPT every day, like that." And for those of you who don't know, go survey your teams. They're all already using it, right? And they know more about it than you do. And so I think we're kind of at this weird, juncture around what I really see happening too, Sean. I'd be curious. I feel like the frontline people are actually way better at kind of adopting AI than a lot of the leadership. So I'm curious, for you, like, what are the things you're hearing about, like, the portfolio company leaders? Are you hearing about them kind of jumping in? Like, are you getting a sentiment of, are we moving past like curiosity to execution or somewhere in between?
I think it depends on what segment and type of business you have. The tech ecosystem is running towards this as fast as they can because that's natural to them. The industrial world and even the business services world is trying to figure out how you use it because it's not a native tool to their everyday life. And so one of the things that I think that we do a lot of these teach-ins for PE firms, where we'll bring in resources and groups to them to help get them over it. We're in this point for a lot of the economy, whether it's porcos or not, where like fear is overriding opportunity, and they just don't know where to start. Is this friend or foe? And we'll always say, like, the first thing you got to do is just start using it. Get everyone in your company should have access to an LLM. Take your choice. Is it Perplexity? Is it ChatGPT? Is it Gemini? Just do one and make it available. And everyone should have like a sticker on their computer, like ask ChatGPT, ask Gemini, ask
Sean,
something.
you are literally like it's like I feel like you're saying. I say my stick it note that I say is I tell people stop going to Google. Like
exactly. When these first started coming out, one little trick we did at our company, we were very early adopters on all of these things, and part of it's just we use our business on our business, and so just as like a family business or a company or a portco or someone uses us, we just do the same thing, so we get to see these trends early. And one of the things that we did was we created an API. We put in, because confidentiality is still key. I know there's like some talk about is the mix and the soup so big now you can't pull out the parts, but we're still like pretty careful about it overall, because you can be if you take just a little extra effort. But what we started doing was we started in our Monday morning kind of huddle, what we do with all hands every week. We started doing a league table to see who was using it the most. We started making it competitive. So we would track the number of times people accessed it, and then everyone started using it because no one wanted to be on the bottom of the leaderboard. So they all started playing and using it, and they all figured it out, because if you realize that, particularly the LLMs, which is one tool, they're parroting humans. And if you realize it's like talking to a 22-year-old, it's just a conversation. Then they all start figuring it out when you realize it's not Google command response. It's conversation, and you've got to iterate, and then you get to the answer, just like when you're talking to a 22-year-old, you're like a really smart intern. Like, they're not going to be able to do it the first time right. But if you realize, like, no, it's the third part of the conversation, and then you finally take the end product and make it the exact way you want it at the end, then it becomes really powerful. And so I think we're seeing a lot of that. Like, the industrial world is picking it up really quickly. Sales and marketing teams everywhere, it's phenomenal, as you know better than anyone, as you've talked about this on your podcast. It's a huge game changer for everything in sales and marketing, in particular as it relates to content. Call centers, totally changing the game.
Oh, especially inbound. And inbound
Yeah.
anything is the first to go. As
Yes,
part of that.
it's exact, and it's funny when they built these things initially, they thought it was going to have robotics applications in the manufacturing center. That's always been the
Right.
mindset with any innovation, really in the history of our lives, and beyond that has been like frontline, tip of the spear production that get impacted first. This is the first technology that is impacting white collar first.
That's exactly it, man. That is exactly it. Yeah, I think and that's a really great point, right? That actually, it's a really interesting point, right? When you think about that. And that's why, for me on the go-to-market side, and then what I want to do next is we'll get into some like really tactical, for me, like most AI investments right now are a complete waste of money. Like what people are touting as AI is still like V1, but now because of Gen AI, they just kind of pile it on, and most people don't kind of comprehend the difference between the two. And so I see a lot of people just spinning their wheels on that side of it. But on the go-to-market side, Sean, one of the things that I am most worried about is that, this COVID generation of people that came into sales and leadership, and, people that started their jobs probably late 2010s, the issue I see is sales leaders, and maybe RevOps is driving this too. They're really focused on everything is uniform. Everything is, did you do this step in the process? And we've started to train. I think we missed the office environment. So all these sellers didn't grow up listening and getting better faster. And so what I see happening is you have a generation, probably anybody with like 7 years of experience and under, really, of go-to-market people that really have not been trained into how to have quality interactions, and they're being told to follow this methodology. That I feel like what's going to happen is AI, those are the people that are going to be replaced, on the go-to-market side, and are the people that have learned, they're copying and pasting someone else's stuff and then just parroting it. And I really feel like that is what we're going to, I think that's going to be a really tough time. So if you're in sales right now or any go-to-market function, you've got to say like, hey, am I using AI to its full capability? Do I know how to use it? And then am I turning my brain on? And so how do you see it impacting go-to-market?
It's a really good point. And I think what people, you're right, we've kind of, particularly in COVID, everyone went to like templates because no one was around humans anymore.
Yeah.
We've been a tribal species for tens of thousands and millions of years.
I like that.
And then they broke everyone into these little digital boxes. And at first people loved it, but we're a mostly in-person office, and we're getting people knocking on our door because it is awful lonely, particularly if a salesperson where your job is to be an intelligent connector and consultative seller of solutions and problem solving. And then suddenly you're on these little islands all by yourself. You are the extroverts of the world, and now you've been locked into your bedrooms. And so I think that templatization, it's kind of, there's a whole generation that's been done a huge disservice because they kind of think like, okay, just follow a process and do it, and then get to soul cycle. And then when in reality is, your job is to create alpha per hour. You need to be going out there and understanding and doing, and these AI tools are tremendous tools, but it's not soup to nuts. And if it's soup to nuts, like call center, you're out of a job.
That's right.
If you don't have the judgment part and you can't demonstrate that, you're the first to go. And so I was to like run towards this stuff as a tool, but don't forget the humanity portion of it, because if you're not doing the humanity portion, that gets automated real quick.
Yeah, if you're not turning your brain on, I mean, that's what I try to consistently say is, guys, bucket the same amount of time that you would to do something, and then get to V1 and V2 really quick, and then you turn the brain on and say, I like that, and then you prompt, and then like, hey, give me 2 more really good ideas. Ooh, I like that. That one won't fit. Delete that out. I mean, again, we'll get that. I think this is a good like precursor. Let's talk like tangible examples, right? So, what are there any consistent use cases that you are seeing? PEs, coming and asking about, or, hey, can we automate this, or can AI help with this? Like, are there 1 or 2 kind of tangible use cases that you're seeing more frequently?
Yeah, I think, the big one we talked about already is call centers. That is getting replicated very quickly. And really what it's enabling is better service and faster service, for your customers. So your costs could go down, but really it's that there's going to be 20% of those use cases that will almost always require human
or human in the
intervention.
loop, right?
Yeah.
It's just maybe later in the process.
But
that's how I think about this. People are going to be so far down a certain funnel. It's like I still want a person, but it's like here versus back. Back here.
And it's the stuff you want the people like doing, like the easy stuff. They don't like doing that stupid answer. So like the metaphor I use in my mind is like radiology. Like 5 years ago, if you go to a radiologist, they would look at every single slide, and then it would take you like 3 months to get your answer. And like, oh my God, now I'm like really sick. And then they started using machine learning, which is now called AI. And then eventually, they look side by side each other. And then, but fast forward to today, the machines do all the easy stuff. The radiologists do the hard stuff. They need more radiologists. It's just the difference is you get your answers back the same day now on the really hard stuff versus waiting 3 months. So it's the same way, like in the call centers, where it's the easy stuff that you can do it. And I don't know about you, but when I'm on those, I'm like first like pretty resistant, and then like that was pretty good.
Right.
I didn't wait 3 hours of getting ticked off or even like 30 minutes, which is probably more like the answer.
Right, exactly.
And then if I needed it, got me to that person quickly, and I was just like, yeah, I love this company.
And that's it too, right? Like and it's getting better too, right? That's I think the key is, yes, you hated it before because it was, like you said, machine learning, but the call center one now, and the example I always use is like the inbound SDR is the first role to go on the B2B side, right? Like, if I'm already at step 3, I'm like, I know who you are, I know what I already use your competitor. Like, do I want to be qualified? Like, wait, you're qualifying me? It's like, I want to talk to someone. I would rather talk to AI where I can say, hey, great. Hey, Jake, I appreciate you showing some interest. I'm going to get you booked with someone. Let me answer a few questions for you. What brought you here? Da-da-da-da-da. Okay, well, yeah, actually, here's the answer to that question. And so I feel like, look, I will choose that option if I can get answers, and like, great. And then make sure that then when the sales rep gets looped in, now the sales rep already has their SE and their customer success person on the first call. And so I think that there's a speed too, in the inbound world.
And what's so key about this, and I think you've done a great job talking about this on your show, is that, it's, and you've made the point here again and again, you got to use the word and, not or. It's not like you're just going to turn this all over to the robots, right? You've got to, the human's going to stay in the loop. You're going to have the robots do the stuff the robots are good at, but you got to keep the people in for the judgment, the service, the nuance, the outliers. But if you could have the robots do the really just basic stuff that no human wants to do, why wouldn't you? And why don't your people want to do that too?
It's a no-brainer.
Run towards that stuff. Everyone in our company reads this book at least once a year called Who Moved My Cheese?
I've heard, yeah, it's a good one.
And it's this great little parable about mice in a maze, and the cheese gets moved, and then the world changes, and the smart ones just run and get, and they still get fat and happy, and eat a lot of cheese. Who doesn't love cheese? I love cheese. But the other ones like resist it, like, it's going to come back. And it's the people, and they wither away. And at the end of the story, like, they make some kind of like hints that those two mice are no longer with us. But it's like you can be afraid of this stuff, and just change will catch up and win, or you can run towards it. And so I choose to run towards it. Like, get excited about it, and just start a little day every day.
I love that. So we got call centers. What other tactical, these kind of like inbound, like we'll call these like, they are getting more nuanced, but I'm going to call it like interactions that aren't, overly involve lots of people necessarily, and I can get basic back and forth on. Are there other kind of tactical use cases that people are, that you're kind of hearing bubbling up?
Yeah, I think the agents are at the early days. Everyone's trying to figure this out. So, N8N is like one of the acronyms that everyone knows.
We're big into N8N.
And it's great where it's no code, low code, right? And so, and even like code is going away, and so what we're seeing is on like, mere mortals now can do these things that used to take months.
100%. I can do it. I can build something in N8N, right? If that tells you just the low efficacy that it takes.
And even a little story, like, I know nothing about coding whatsoever. I've never, maybe other than basic in 8th grade when they made us make a little game.
Basic. Man, guys, if you want to know, OG coders respect basic.
Yeah. And so I was curious about it. It was a rainy day in Nashville. I had nothing to do. My kids are older, and one of my son does this thing called Quiz Bowl, which is like competitive Jeopardy in high school. And like part of the challenge is you can't keep the score. Like no one knows what it is. They don't show it to you. So I was like, you know what? I bet you I could just make an app. And in one afternoon, I used this program called Vercel, and I made it. It had me make an entire app that was the exact thing I ever wanted in my life, all in one afternoon. That probably would have taken our dev team, a year ago, probably like a month to make. It was 2,000 lines of code, and it was the perfect thing I wanted. The hard part was getting it into the damn app store. And so, that took me twice as long. But making the app I always wanted was with zero coding skills, and they just embedded an LLM into the dev shop, and I just had conversations with them. Like, no, I want this, not that. And it's the same thing that's coming out with that. So I think the agents are coming. I still think they're not quite ready for prime time, but they're getting there fast. Yeah, I'd love your perspective on that, because I think you're probably farther ahead than we are in that.
Well, there's some cool stuff, man. Most people don't realize. I mean, ChatGPT. I think I'm gonna do a future episode of the podcast, probably in the next few weeks here. ChatGPT just released 4.0 tasks. So if you're using the paid version, I feel like this is some feature why nobody's talking about this. And it's kind of V1 of like a built-in agent where you can be like, I want you to monitor for Okta's quarterly filings on a consistent basis. It'll go immediately. It'll be like, oh, Okta last did this. Do you want that one? I will go and check Okta for that. So you can imagine future of go-to-market is, what we're doing with our clients. Dude, we're gonna have every rep set up like 500 of these freaking things, every single one. So the agents, and again, the word agents gets thrown around. It can mean we kind of delineate. There's like the agents are like the proactive things. Assistants are the things that are like, that prompt you, like discovery call prep. It's like, give me a link to the company and the job title. Here's your discovery call prep. And then automations are things that, say, oh, I just saw this new thing. Let me run that custom GPT, and then I'll pipe it in to you. So, and what I'm seeing is, it's interesting. You had hinted to this before in the very beginning, is a lot of PE firms, I feel like, are finally moving toward like, we just need to get our portcos help. Like, they're not going to do this shit. Like, they're not going to do it. Like, we're training them. Like, I can't imagine, Sean, I've probably in the last 9 months spoken at least 12 different PE conferences about Gen AI. And, the consistent is either like, one, the revenue leaders, many of them are like, what in the hell is this, right? Yeah. And then two, it's like, we follow up like, oh yeah, we haven't done, we still are kicking tires. And I feel like many of the PE firms that we're talking to are finally like, you just have to have somebody do it for you, and it's like, which is good for our business, right? I feel like what with our business, how it's transitioning is like, we've always been kind of this rev performance, some mix of like strategy, enablement, operations, and kind of how do you bring these things together. And now I feel like we've got this part of our business that's like website hosting 92, where I'm like, let me explain the internet and websites to you. Yeah. And then there's, again, a lot of fear in the market. A lot of these, and for a lot of these companies, I think it goes back to what both of us said, which is, it doesn't matter, like for your company in particular, identify the use case, right? Like one of the ones that we found, with some of our like more non-tech is like, what's the next product I should recommend? We worked with a company called Koozie Group, HIG-backed company, and we helped them to develop an agent that's like, they got a ton of different SKUs. It's like, hey, this is what they're doing with us. What should they do with us next? And it's saving their reps 3 to 4 hours a week. Like the math is real. You're talking about getting a month to 2 months of additional productivity out of every single person in your go-to-market team with one little assistant.
Well, here, right? Here's an example, even like a year-old example. This is like the beginning. Actually, this is beginning
this is from August.
This was like 2 years ago, actually, in our firm. So you think about every marketing team. There's huge advantage about content creation.
Oh God,
2 years ago, our head of marketing came up to us and said, "Hey, I need more content writers." I go, "Well, no, there's this thing called ChatGPT that just came out, and there's this thing called Jasper. You can use both of those. Try that out." Long story long, 2 years ago, our content production went up 500% for $40 a month in subscriptions, and the ask was like multiple $100,000 of content writers. The content was better. It was more SEO'd. It was more well written once you kind of figure out how to, particularly then, to prompt it. But now it's just, but that's going to create new problems, right? The cheese can get moved because now the world's just exploding with content.
Oh my God.
SEO is almost impossible now because everyone's creating so much content.
Well, the content one's a really good tactical one for people. And Sean, like pro tip, for you and your team, we upgraded. So that a brand new, the ChatGPT-01 Pro reasoning model came out in late January.
Yeah.
It's $200 a month. It is insane. So like our marketing team, now we have 3 or 4 people at the company, 5 people now, that we pay $200 a month just so they can have access to the Pro. I mean, that's a lot of money if you think about it. Our marketing team, when you turn on the 01 Pro reasoning with deep research, it can literally put together the best 5-6 page white paper you've seen, cite 29 sources. And so now our marketing team is putting out a white paper a day.
Yeah.
A day. And the key is, what Becca does, she then spends 2 hours making it awesome.
Yeah.
So it's like she gets to V1 and then spends 2 hours, refining the prompts, a little bit more of that, and then just like editing, moving this, deleting. I mean, it's unfathomable. Like and even for Becca, like I think about my marketing team, it's like I had to get her comfortable of like, you can, like, that this is even possible, right? Of like, you can do this and like you're going to be better for it, more productive, etc.
It's things like creating like case study engines. It's amazing. I totally agree with that. And so it's as you talked about, it's a distillation and speed enhancer. You still have to check it. You do your magic. Like I said, it's like the world's best 22-year-old entry level employee. If like you had like,
but that also knows everything.
Yeah,
but they have a matrix brain to where it's like I can access. I created my first voice agent in 11 labs, and it's me, and it's trained on like best discovery call best practices, and what it does but you can start to challenge it and be like, well, Jake, I don't think you actually know like anything about the discovery call for my quantum computing tech company. Can you explain quantum computing to me? And then I just start spouting all this knowledge about quantum computing and these things. So it's crazy. It's pretty interesting. We'll put the phone number in the show notes so you guys can give me a call and check it out.
Yeah, and I'll tell like the one other thing you asked, like what are people tactically doing that anyone can do? Virtually every company now today has software, right? And even manufacturing companies. And if they don't, then now they can. And the software development is the other big area where everyone has to be on this. And so what we're seeing is massive productivity enhancements by using these LLMs to code. Gemini's new one is amazing. And so, I think we just doubled our productivity in the last month.
That's wild.
Now what's creating, so for people who are doing this, what you have to be aware of, now it's creating other bottlenecks. And so it's just like any kind of system. So read the book, The Goal, which is an old line like manufacturing book.
The best.
Everything's a process, right?
Eli Goldrath, is that right? Is that it?
Yeah, Eli Goldrath, exactly right. And it's a great book, and it's told through a story. And so I read this when I was a young pup, investor in industrial companies. I read that, and I could walk any plant in the world. But really, it's just a process. And so now what's happening is our devs are working at like light speed. They are cranking through so much code, it's impossible. Now it's testing, and most importantly, product that can't keep up.
Right.
And so you're going to have to now, but what's coming right behind that? Testing, automated testing solutions are coming very close. Product is like there's tools that are making our product people faster. So, one of the things you have to be really thoughtful about these things is look at your entire system and map it and understand where your constraints are, because you're going to make certain parts really fast.
Where's your Herbie? Right?
Yeah. You're going to make certain parts really fast, but the others are going to keep up, and the whole engine won't move as fast as the slowest piece. So,
shout out to The Goal. Yeah, I read that in business school years ago.
It's a great book.
I really feel like everybody should read The Goal. It really helps in terms of just knowing how to tackle problems and do like good project management of just, understanding the theory of constraints, but being able to read it in like a fictional environment. I don't know. Like, it's like, oh, this makes sense. And then like now every problem you quickly, you eliminate the noise and you go, where's the bottleneck?
Yeah.
Right?
And it's so important now because certain part of people's businesses now are moving so fast.
Right.
But if you can't speed up the bottlenecks. You're not gonna keep it, your whole business won't move faster. It's just parts of it will, and then you're gonna have a lot of people like reading ESPN, .com on
like, hey man,
nothing left to do.
I'm waiting on Herbie to catch up here. Shout out Herbie, by the way, is the fictional kid that creates the bottleneck, and so you can read all about it. So look, I've got a ton of notes here. I've got this. I love this one. I put the template generation for go to market. It's a tactic in service of your strategy. I thought that was like really, really good. I love the leaderboard idea. I'm stealing that one immediately for our team. Everyone on our team has access to ChatGPT teams as well. So there's a lot of really good stuff in here. So Sean, one, appreciate you joining. Take us home, final thoughts. Somebody who's listening saying, I'm in a go-to-market function. Yeah. You get a chance to talk to a lot of these folks. What's maybe the one thing that either we didn't cover or kind of one final point you think that, people need to hear?
I think so much of this is a change management issue. And what I would say this is more kind of just conceptual than a tactic or life hack, is you've got to, you can run towards this and you can thrive, or you can resist it and wither. And for particularly go-to-market people, those are people who look towards the world and run towards it. And so take that same mentality that brought you into this job in the first place and get super excited about it. And it's really, really kind of daunting to take the first step. I was in private equity, which we're the most risk-averse people of all time.
That's right.
And but if you can take, all it is that first step, and then you take the next step. Put a little sticker, and I got this from a guy named Connor Grennan, who's like the chief AI architect at NYU. And he's like, just put a sticker on your monitor that says "Ask ChatGPT" or "Ask Claude" or Gemini. And it's amazing how often I just look at that on my own, and I do it, and you get
and you go, why am I doing what I'm doing right now?
Yeah, it's just better and faster. And talk to the LLMs like it's a person. Realize that they were trained to parrot people. Ask it a question, tell them who you are, tell them who they are. Tell them what the objective is, check their work, cite their sources, and ask questions they want to know. And you'll get amazing outputs from it. And it'll tell you what to do. And so just use it every day, run towards it, take one step at a time. And it's the old cliche, I didn't come up with this, but ChatGPT or AI in general is not going to replace your job, but someone who is using it will.
That's right. That's right. That's a good note. And by the way, I just wrote down, I'm replacing it. I just wrote down Ask ChatGPT. I'm going to put it. I'm literally doing it as we speak here. No need to. And again, I think I'm a power user as is, but again, I constantly catch myself being like, "Why am I? Oh crap! Go do this now." So Sean, appreciate you, my man. We'll catch up next time. I'm in Nashville for sure. Sorry we missed last week, but hopefully everyone out there, I feel like this was a super mix of. I need to get my butt in gear with some tactical ways you can think about getting started as well too, which is always what we're trying to bring on the podcast. So Sean, big shout out, big thank you to you, my man.
Likewise, Jake. Great seeing you.
All right, you too.